Hello, BookTube. There is a tawdry, horrible melodrama that is unfolding slowly, steadily, and grotesquely here on BookTube, and the trouble starts where it always does, with Bill Rutenberg at the Rutenberg Library, who did a relatively innocent video in which he took us on a tour of his travel bag. And then the melodrama was kicked off and weaponized and became an eternal saga by another node of evil here on BookTube, and you're expecting that I'm going to say Micah Cummins, aren't you? But no, in this case it was Aaron Facer, who did a tour of his own bag, one of them, and dubbed the phenomenon Bag Tuesday. Now, I had already responded to Bill Rutenberg with a bag saga of my own, because the big, heavy-duty canvas shoulder bag that I use on the rare occasions when I leave the fainting couch definitely needed to be retired. It had a big, thick cloth shoulder strap, but it doesn't matter. The shoulder strap could be metal and made of gold. It wouldn't matter. What matters is how is it anchored to the bag. If that anchor is not strong, or if it is giving out no matter how strong it is, the bag is going to be useless as soon as it rips away. And it's going to rip away at the very worst moment. You can guarantee that. If you don't take proactive steps, the disaster is going to happen when you can least afford for it to. And that was true of my canvas shoulder bag. It was a great big roomy thing, really, really sturdy. But when you hold it up in a certain light and look at the patch of cloth that is anchoring the shoulder strap to the body of the bag, you can see that it's wearing out. You can see that it's getting thinner and thinner, and that sooner or later it's just going to pull off the bag. And you might think, well, good Lord, if you've missed this saga, you might think, well, good Lord, how much strain would you need to put on the bag to do that? Quite a lot, and I do. I never leave my house without coming back with 50 pounds of books, unless it's a dog walk. If it's a dog walk and it's out in the woods or somewhere, then no. But if I leave my house to do errands, I come back with 50 pounds of books. A perfect demonstration of this, perfect illustration of this little thing. Here on the street, I think it was last year, I was puttering around here and I realized that there was some little household item. It might have been a bar of soap or something as dumb as that. Something little and thing like that where you don't want to do without it, but you don't want to make a separate online order for it or a separate request to the surly houseboy. So I took it into my head on that day. It was a spring day, but then in Boston, all days are spring days. I took it into my head to put on my big boy pants and just walk to the nearest shop, the nearest little shop, and just get that. Now, this is an arrangement where it's residential housing, it's open fields and gardens and parks. It's not a business area at all, but there are dotted here and there little neighborhood shops. Very, very useful places. I thought, I'll go to one of those. And I brought my shoulder bag because I don't even think about it. I bring a shoulder bag no matter what. I walked to that shop to get that little household item. I talked with the owner. I petted his cat. He seems to expect that. And then on my way back, same distance, not a far distance at all. Obviously, I'm not going to hoof it a long distance. The same short distance, the same route, the same houses and gardens and yards and whatnot. On the way back, in between the time when I went to get that item, when I talked with the owner, and when I was coming back, someone had started a yard sale. And it was full of books for 10 cents a piece. And I came back to the house with 50 pounds of books. When I went out for a simple errand to get a little thing. That's it. That was all. The 50 pounds of books appeared while I was out there. That happens every time I go out to do anything. So I am going to put that kind of stress on a bag. And it's going to happen with that big canvas shoulder bag. So I have done a whole playlist of mind-numbingly tedious videos about the evolution, the saga of my bag. I decided, pretty much on camera, to abandon that canvas bag now before it destroys itself when it's 150 degrees and I'm outside a mile away from the house. I decided to abandon it now. So I took all my stuff out of it, put it neatly in a little pile. There isn't much. I put it all neatly in a little pile. I got my surly houseboy to open the closet where I store all of the older shoulder bags that I have and have discarded for one reason or another. I took them all out and I did a tedious video going through their strengths and weaknesses. And then I narrowed them down to the ones that obviously won't work versus the ones that might. And then I used one by one those that might and ruled them out for one reason or another until we got down to 2 bags, but one main candidate. I got down to one main candidate, which had been all of your favorites, and it is my favorite. It is the bag that I like the most. It's this battered old leather shoulder bag. Still has the weak spot of all of these shoulder bags, which is that the strap is held to the bag by 2 lines of stitching and 1 divot, 1 bolt, like that. And that's all. That's the only thing holding this to the bag, and the bag doesn't have any handle. It doesn't have anything like that, so if this gives, then this is useless. And a number of you said I should take it to a cobbler or a seamstress and see what they can do with it, see if they can reinforce it. That requires money. I really don't want to spend any money on this process, especially since I have an entire closet full of candidates. Another thing that I liked about this is that it has this enormous flap. The flap covers the whole of the bag. Because when I go out, and this thing is empty, it always is when I'm leaving. Actually not. It's full of packages to mail out. But then I empty them. By the time I start my errands, the bag is completely empty. And it stretches quite a bit. But even when books are going to go in here, and even when there's this completely full of books, this flap will still rest flat on top of those books. So they are protected from the elements and also from prying eyes. I got a lot of advice from a lot of you on what I would do to restain this or to pull up the dirt from this and make it look a lot more like this. And I transferred everything to this bag in order to use it on errands. And I did, and it survived, obviously, but I noticed 2 things right away. Number 1, this is a small bag. I don't know how I didn't notice that in the years when it was my only bag and when I was using it every day. I don't know how I didn't notice that, unless either I did notice it and just put it out of my mind, or my use of shoulder bags has grown. Maybe it's true that 10 years ago, when I left the fainting house, when I went out on errands, I only needed room for 25 pounds of books. Now it's 50 pounds of books. That is just a given. That is certainly going to happen. And this is not big enough for that. I have a zippered pouch in the back here that I used for a tote bag. I needed the tote bag right away. First stop, I needed the tote bag, and it was full. And that was one problem with this bag. And the other problem, once it was full to its paltry capacity, with a tote bag also full, and I was coming back here, I could hear this thing creaking. I could hear it creaking. Now, you might say, some of you are leather aficionados who did give me all this leather carry advice would say that's natural. Leather does that. Leather creaks. It never did before. I was terrified the whole time coming back here that it was going to explode into a million pieces before I could get to the door. So I hurled it away from me and spat upon it. And that left me with very few options. I'm not going to go back to that big canvas bag for the exact same problem. It's not like it suddenly becomes sound just because this has revealed all of its faults. I will keep this, of course. This is a kind of a battered, old, stylish Indiana Jones type thing, but it won't work for what I need my shoulder bag for. A shoulder bag for. It won't work for 50 pounds of books. It won't work for massively overstuffing it on a run of errands, whether it's books or anything else. It's too small. And the closet, the aforementioned closet where all of those candidate bags had been living for a year, has already been refilled with those candidates and resealed. I would need to ask my surly houseboy again to open the closet again. It takes a lot of to-do to move stuff around and open that closet. It's not the kind of to-do that I am strictly allowed to do, so I don't want to be a bother, so I don't want to do that, and that left me with only one candidate. So a huge pile of bags suddenly was reduced to only one candidate. This thing. This canvas thing. Not pretty at all, just a kind of a totally nondescript canvas bag. Completely formless. This was one that I did not need to Frankenstein. Ordinarily, this thing was a normal briefcase type thing. when I originally got it, I had to take a knife to it and cut all of the fake foam padding out of it, all of the cardboard partitioning out of it, all that stuff that it's designed to make it keep its shape in the boardroom, but I've never been allowed into a boardroom. This never had that. This is just a canvas sack with a strap. And it's fairly, it has a flap that covers the whole of the bag, which was the sticking point for a couple of those LL Bean bags. And it's fairly roomy on the inside, probably a little more roomy than the leather bag. So I transferred everything into this bag and thought I would use this. And I took this on errands just this week. And I filled it. It was barely able to, it's able to hold more than the leather bag. It was able to hold 50 pounds of books, but it has the exact same structural weak spot, which is that the strap that holds the bag onto your shoulder is anchored to the bag just there. That, yes, this is a heavy-duty patch, and that is heavy-duty stitching up here, down here, and in a crosswise pattern. Great. Fantastic. But it's still only attached to cloth. That's all that it's attached to here, and it's giving out. I think you can actually see on one of these sides, I think you can see, yeah, you can see that it's giving out. And I knew that, but it was literally my only alternative. So I went on errands, I filled this bag, and on my way back, I could hear tiny little ripping sounds, like one stitch after another. Every time it jostled, I would hear a sound like that. And I don't want to hear anything about people thinking I'm imagining things, okay? I know what I heard. I barely got back here. My heart was racing, thinking, oh my God, as strong as this patch is, it's going to pull right off this bag before I can get it back to the front door. And like the shoulder bag, the leather bag, this thing has no way to carry it. I would have to just hold it like this if the shoulder strap came out. The whole way back, that was happening. To this thing, same as to this thing. I hurl them both away from me with violence. I spit upon them. I scorn them. And since I do that, I now have no shoulder bag candidates. I have ruled out all the ones that were sealed up in the closet for one reason or another. I'm keeping them because they're good for moving luggage. They're good for stuffing with clothing. Might be good for filling with clothing for a vacation or a trip out of town with the bean. But they won't be good for daily errands because my daily errands involve 50 pounds. Plain and simple. It doesn't have to be 50 pounds of books. It's 50 pounds. The bag needs to be hugely stuffable and incredibly strong. And neither one of these are. Which means that my candidates now on Bag Tuesday for my shoulder bag on my normal errands is 0. I don't have a shoulder bag. The next time I do errands, I'm going to have to go out with my hands swinging in the air like a common bridge troll, and when I get 50 pounds of books, I'm going to have to carry them like this. In my hands. No shoulder bag at all. I'll just put a wallet in my pants and carry everything like that. Like some sort of Mennonite. And it's all Aaron Facer's fault. So the alternatives, well, the solution to the problem, there is no getting around this. These things were making please put me out of my misery noises while I was using them. There is no getting around that. That puts these bags in the same position as that original canvas bag, which is that I'm asking for trouble if I use them. I'm asking for them to fail far away when I can't afford for them to fail. And there are only two alternatives to this horrifying scenario that was brought on by Aaron Facer. Scenario number one is that I go to thrift shops or charity stores looking for shoulder bags. That's where I found most of these. Or I would go looking. That is total happenstance. I have no idea what I'll find, or what shape it will be in. No idea if I'll find anything. And keep in mind, it's important that I find something because any errand I go on that involves going to a charity shop or a thrift store in order to look for a shoulder bag will also involve 50 pounds of books. So I will either be using these bags again, one of them, for 50 pounds of books that they can't carry, or I'll be getting a new bag, a new/old bag at one of those charity shops, not knowing whether or not I can stand the strain. That's alternative number one. And alternative number two is to buy a bag. With 10 shoulder bags here, alternative number two is to buy a bag. Now, I think when it comes to shoulder bags, I would be insane to go on eBay. I think when it comes to something like this, I'd be insane to buy secondhand. Maybe if I could see it. Maybe at a thrift shop where you can actually handle the thing. But not, if I don't trust dealers on eBay to describe a book, I don't know that I trust them to describe a bag. So I think that revolves my alternatives down to just one, which is to go on Amazon. And believe it or not, despite the fact that that is an unbelievable, unbelievable alternative with 10 bags in the house, I did briefly look on Amazon. I, of course, was horrified by the prices, but I was also horrified by the size. These things are pretty dainty. They're little man purses, most of them. They're tiny. They're even smaller than the shoulder bag that Aaron Facer held up, which wouldn't hold 5 books. I need a shoulder bag. It can't be a backpack. I need a shoulder bag that will hold 50 pounds. Reliably, 50 pounds. Comfortably, 50 pounds. And now I'm reduced to shopping for a shoulder bag. So this saga, which I thought I was putting to bed, I thought I was just going to go back to the leather shoulder bag, but not only was it creaking the whole time, dangerously, ominously creaking, but it's too small. It's just too small. I don't know how it ever worked for me before. Not only can I not go back to the bags that I have, but now I have to look for one. I have to get another bag. So this saga is ongoing. I will update you next Tuesday for Bag Tuesday. But right now, it's the scorched earth apocalypse. Right now, I have gone from having 10 bags to having none. I have no bags. So the next round of errands that I do, which will probably be next week, I'm plumb out of luck. I'm plumb out of luck. That's to say nothing of the Boston Public Library book sale, which is on the 1st of April. That's going to be 50 pounds of books. What am I supposed to do with that? Am I supposed to bring a red wagon? Anyway, that's my update for Bag Tuesday. It is a catastrophe. It is a bag-tastrophe. I don't have a working shoulder bag for the first time in forever because they've all decided to fail on me at the same time. So I hope that Bill Rutenberg and Aaron Facer are happy. Anyway, I will give you an update next week, provided I live that long. Thank you, BookTube.